All right, today we're going to be talking about the psychology of the 11th house in astrology, giving you the full meaning explained. First, we're going to go through the components, the different aspects of the 11th house in a psychological way, so you get a more detailed look. Then we're going to go through the qualities, how to assess how the 11th house manifests healthily, psychologically, and unhealthily or pathologically, psychologically. And then how to evaluate within the birth chart, how to assess if your 11th house is healthy or unhealthy, or by simply seeing what resonates and doesn't resonate when it comes to how an 11th house manifests healthily or unhealthily in a psychological way. So let's get started. First, comma, succedent. That is what the 11th house is. It's a comma, succedent house. As we said before, we are now at the final comma house. Third house, comma house. Seventh house, comma house. 11th house is a comma house. These are the social houses. Why are these the social houses? Because comma aligns with our pleasure, our desires, our goals, our hopes, our dreams, the things that we want in life. How does that usually manifest? We need people. Either the people are the sources of our desires, our pleasures, our wants, or we need people to interact with them to achieve that, right? To get the material pleasures or the pleasures, period, the things that titillate the senses or that we're hungry for, it involves working with other people or getting other people. Simple as that. When it comes to the comma houses, you start with the angle, the comma angle house. You then go to the succedent where it manifests. I'm going to get to that in a second. And then you go to the comma cadent house, which is that skill ability where you develop something. So 7th house is where you take action towards the things you desire. It's the source or the point that represents your most powerful desire. And then we go to the succedent house, which is the security houses. The houses that are stable, consistent, steadfast, persistent, and most manifest, most solid, most unchanging out of the different house types, the most unchanging and persistent over time. Most solid manifestations, most dense. So from that, you get security, right? So you have social security. One's security in one's social life or ability to get their goals, wants, hungers, desires. And so you take action, you start taking action towards what you desire. 7th house represents the action towards what we most desire in this incarnation. Usually that is the opposite sex or a relationship, however that manifests for you, or a close bond with somebody. Then you solidify it by establishing a network, an organization. These are things in the 11th house, or by putting a title on it. 11th house title, putting a title on it, or getting a certificate, or gaining affluence through that relationship, solidifying it in the greater sphere of society, which is the 11th house, through that relationship. And then you develop that established connection, that bond, that security that has been achieved by starting in the 7th house of comma, the first action house when it comes to comma. So, like I said, with the synthesis, it's the social security. Now, one way to know about a house or to learn about a house, you look at the opposite house. And so you go to the 5th house, which is self-security or self-confidence, which is just being secure in the self. You're either secure in the self, and the opposite is secure socially or in society or in a group. Okay? So how does that manifest? What does that look like? It's somebody who can make connections, has a strong social network, can use their connections to get ahead in life, right? To achieve their hopes, their dreams, their goals. Or they acquire things like titles, certificates, rewards, affluence to gain social approval, social validation. Social validation, self-validation, 5th house. Feeling good about oneself, being able to look at oneself in the mirror, doing things because it aligns with who one is as a person, aligns with their dharma, their core, their natural state of flow, doing things because it will gain social approval, validation. It will bring in pleasures, bring in income, the 11th house, it will bring in gains. To get income, to achieve your hopes, your dreams, you need other people, you need connections, you need to work with others. One of the most famous quotes in, I don't know, it's not business, but just professional advice, one of the most popular pieces of professional advice that I've ever heard, and I see it all over the world, is it's not what you do, it's who you know. Or it's not about your degree or whatever, it's about the hands you shake, the people that you know in the room. That's how you gain affluence. That's how you get an income. That's how you get titles, awards, certificates, is by knowing the right people and feeling secure in your ability to maneuver other people, because that's who you get. That's where you get those certificates from. That's where you get those titles from. That's where you get validation from and affluence from, is from other people, from the group, from an organization, from society. All 11th house significations. So 11th house, somebody who is secure socially, they feel comfortable, they feel solid, they feel confident in a group, they feel secure, they feel confident alone or as an individual themselves in being able to be at the center of the group or to even lead a group. Being part of a group, feeling secure, being their own individual, separate from the group, feeling secure. Okay? That's the 5th house versus the 11th house. And then when you go around the entire zodiac, or not the circle, the house circle, but also I mean zodiac. Right? We got Aries in the 1st house. As we've done with every other house, we start with the 1st. You have your idea, your initial idea, your vision. I want to manifest this. I want to go towards this. I'm inspired to do so. You start getting the tools, resources, taking responsibility, doing the things you need to do. You start working with others, developing your skills, using your social skills to start taking the small steps forward and developing yourself, gaining a lot of information, all 3rd house indications. 4th house, you start feeling, taking action based off your feeling, what feels right, tapping into your emotional guidance system and initiating based off your feelings and seeing how moving towards this inspiration, this vision that you got in the 1st house, how it's making you feel. You then solidify your core identity, your dharmic path, you make it solid, you make it a part of who you are, and you be consistent on it, because that's how you manifest things. You got to be consistent. 6th house, you deal with all the problems. You use your survival skills. You use your ability to be worthwhile when it comes to dealing with the challenges and obstacles, the delays, the debts, all things of the 6th house that stand in your way of moving forward. You then work with others. You find your mirror. You find partners that can reflect back to you the things that you're missing or the things that you do well to learn about yourself. You then go to the 8th house, which is all about emotional security, going through the crisis, the death, rebirth, transformation that happens along your path of life, along we go around it. The most difficult part, this is the pivotal breaking point part, where you either rise to the occasion or crumble to dust. Then you go to the 9th house, where you find meaning and purpose in the crisis, the death, rebirth, trauma that you experience in the 8th house. Going inside of yourself to face your demons and to face that trauma head on, you find purpose and meaning, and you become wiser. You gain better understanding of yourself, the 9th house. With that better understanding, you can then take the proper actions to unwind your karma, to take responsibility for the material world, to go out into the public and pay it forward, to do the things you need to do to manage your material life and manage or help or aid the material life of the people around you. Fulfill your duty, 10th house. And through doing that, by taking the action, taking responsibility, being driven through purpose, being on your dharma, doing something that's true to yourself, and doing things even when you don't feel like it, 10th house, you then gain affluence, you gain social approval, you gain validation. Okay? You gain, maybe I said income or gains, but yes, right? Society approves because you've done the work in the public sphere. You've done what you've been karmically set out to do based off the spiritual contract that is the birth chart that you were born into. Okay? So that's the 11th house. And so when you have planets in the 11th house, these are the planets that will help you achieve and manifest your dreams. They'll help you manifest the certificates, the titles you need to get the things that you desire. They will maybe represent your long-term goals, your long-term desires. They may represent the kind of social network you attract, or the organizations you're a part of, or the society you grow up in. Okay? Or the planets you use to achieve social security, meaning feeling comfortable within a group, which is the opposite of feeling comfortable by yourself. Not saying that someone can't have both. You can have both. But they're different. They're opposite things. Being confident here alone versus confident in a crowd and feeling one of the not one of the boys, but like one of the tribe. 11th house, tribe. Larger community. Small local community, larger community. 11th house. So planets here do well. It's an Upachaya house as well. I forgot to mention that. 11th house is also the Upachaya house. 3, 6, 10, 11 increases, gets better over time, just naturally develops. So the planets that here will naturally get better, like they will naturally get better and more powerful in the 10th or in the 6th or in the 3rd as you age, as you grow. Because what happens when you age? You gain more titles, you gain more affluence, your social network usually improves. Again, this is just a general description. It's not the case for everybody. But as you develop, you gain more affluence, you gain more income, the ability to earn, and you have more time to fulfill your long-term goals, and you're more likely to achieve your hopes and dreams with time. 11th house. Planets do well. They can be very powerful. They're going to be also more public because, again, it's society. And then this is, 10th house is just the public in general. So 11th house planets can do well. Like all Upachaya houses, malefics do really well there too, because you can do the hard work to, you got the grit, you got that energy, you got the power to move forward and achieve those goals, achieve those dreams, and to gain the things that you want to gain in this incarnation based off your karma, your desires, your pleasure. Okay? And so when you have a healthy 11th house, it's somebody who can manifest their long-term goals, their dreams, can make the sacrifices that are needed to move forward, to gain their certificates and titles. They can make the right connections, to have a big, powerful social network, or they're part of an organization that they feel secure in, that they feel solid in. They feel comfortable in groups. They're able to go out into the public space, into social areas, and feel one of many. Not the center of attention, which is more 5th house, more as an individual, aligned with Leo, but just humbly. I was trying to say humility, but humbly maneuvering social spaces and just being one of the tribe. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay? Unhealthy will feel less secure in social situations, might feel like an outcast, might feel ostracized, doesn't know how to gel well with other people, might be trapped too much in the 5th house of being their own individual, feeling solid about themselves when they're in solitude or when they're alone or when they're on their own path. But when it involves other people or even involves gaining validation from others, they shy away, pathologically at least. To be unhealthy. Now, seeking validation, needing that social validation, needing to feel secure in a group, can't be alone, doesn't know who they are without themselves attached to some kind of group or tribe or social identity. They can feel insecure there. They don't know who they are if they're not aligned with being part of a team or, a Democrat or Republican or an atheist or even, a juggler, a witch, an athlete, you get it, someone's tribe, a shaman, part of a community. If they don't have that community, they crumble, they lose themselves, they have no identity underneath. So that could be an unhealthy 11th house. And to evaluate it from a more objective lens, especially if you're trying to evaluate yourself, it can be difficult to really honestly have a take on yourself of, do I manifest that in an unhealthy or healthy way? I get it. You want to assess the 11th house, planets close or conjunct the 11th Bhava cusp, 11th house cusp, 11th Lord, the Lord of the sign holding the 11th cusp or the 11th sign in the chart, depending on if you use whole signs or not. And finally, Jupiter. Jupiter, believe it or not, Jupiter, it's a lot of Jupiter-Saturn going on over here. And you're probably realizing there's a lot of Jupiter-Saturn being aligned with different houses, meaning very important because houses are the concrete existing things. So that means Jupiter and Saturn are very, very important for manifest reality. Very important. If those planets are doing well, manifest reality goes smoother. If they're difficult, they're afflicted, it's best to heal it if you want a more smooth, prosperous, abundant, successful external world. Because that's what the houses you all represent. At its core is the concrete existing thing, the concrete manifest reality. But some are more concrete manifest reality than others, especially in a psychological sense. So social security, 11th house, aligned with Jupiter, because Jupiter is that ability to connect to something greater, to be gregarious, to be likable, and to maneuver the world, meaning and purpose, which usually attracts social validation. But at its core, it's the income and the gains. And so the ability to gain things that you want, to gain the hopes, the dreams, the goals, the long-term goals. These are all Jupiter things. That's why it's aligned with 11th house. So look at 11th house, 11th Lord, and Jupiter. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Would love to hear your opinions if you resonated or not down below in the comments. Also, if you have any questions, happy to answer them to the best of my possibility. And in the next video, we're going to be doing the final house, psychology house, the 12th house. So subscribe. We're going to be finishing up these houses. Then we're going into the next round of videos, which I'll talk about in the next video. And if you haven't seen 1 through 11, check them out. Did the whole series for psychology of the houses. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.